Hello there, welcome you guys back to our classes. Today we're going to be discussing respiration, and respiration is an important part of the processes that living organisms carry out or go through, and respiration is really important. And what is respiration? Respiration should not be confused with gaseous exchange, but gaseous exchange is also a process that helps or aids in respiration. But it's important to note that respiration is the breakdown of glucose within the cell. So when we talk about respiration, we are basically talking about cellular respiration, which is a process where you have the breakdown of glucose within the cell to release energy. Energy in the form of ATP is released from the glucose that is broken down within the cell. So this process that breaks down glucose in using either oxygen or without oxygen is the process that we refer to as respiration. So we break down glucose and then we produce ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. Now it's important to note that when you talk about respiration, there are two major types of respiration. There's aerobic and there's anaerobic respiration. When you say aerobic respiration, this is respiration that is taking place in the presence of oxygen, respiration that is aided by oxygen, respiration that cannot occur without oxygen. Now in aerobic respiration, you have oxygen is being used to break down glucose into carbon dioxide and water, and then energy is released in the form of ATP. Now, mostly within the human body, there are two pathways through which aerobic respiration occurs. The first is the glycolysis pathway, and the second is the tricarboxylic acid or Krebs cycle or carboxylic acid pathway. Now, in the first one, which is the glycolysis pathway, you have the breakdown of glucose into a 3-carbon compound called pyruvate. And when this pyruvate is produced, it's produced alongside with 2 ATP molecules, which is energy in the form of ATP. So 2 ATP molecules are produced by this first glycolysis pathway. But those 2 ATP molecules are not enough to run all the different processes, and so the product of the glycolysis pathway, which is pyruvate, is now sent or put into the carboxylic acid pathway, or what you call the Krebs cycle. And in this cycle, there is the use up of this pyruvate and then you have the generation of 36 molecules of ATP. So this is important. At the end of the day, you have 38 molecules of ATP that are produced from a single molecule of glucose. So when the glucose is broken down, it's broken down into carbon dioxide and water and energy. The first pathway, glycolysis pathway, gives you 2 ATP molecules, and the second pathway, which is the Krebs cycle or the tricarboxylic acid pathway, gives you 36 ATP molecules. So altogether you have 38 ATP molecules. This is important for us to note at this O-level stage. Later, when you get to a higher stage, you need to know all the enzymes that help, or in these 2 pathways, the enzymes that are involved in this breakdown. This is really, really important to know. Now, it's also important to know that is aerobic respiration. There is anaerobic respiration, and in anaerobic respiration, you have the breakdown of glucose. But this breakdown does not involve the use of oxygen. It occurs in the absence of oxygen. And there are many different ways that the anaerobic respiration could take place. But it's either you have the formation of lactic acid or you have the formation of ethanol. Any one of these two is what occurs, and then you also have the release of energy in the form of ATP. So this is important to note about respiration. Now, it's also important to note, like I said earlier, I said that gaseous exchange is not really respiration, but it's a part of respiration, because for gaseous exchange to occur, you have, depending now on, let's say, human beings, for an example, you have the giving off of carbon dioxide and the taking in of oxygen. Now, for this to occur, there are what we refer to as respiratory surfaces. These are surfaces on which this exchange of gases occur. Now, there are different types of respiratory surfaces, and we'll just look at a few of them before we end this class. The first being the trachea. This is present in a lot of insects. Insects have trachea, and this trachea, is spread all around the body of the insects, and it opens out to pores or holes or even spores on the body of the insect that we refer to as spiracles. This is important, and they are there for gaseous exchange in different kinds of insects. That's for trachea. Now, apart from trachea, we also have what we call gills. Gills are present in aquatic organisms. Gills are there. They are where a lot of gaseous exchange occurs, and you can see them in fishes, you can see them in crabs, you can see them in prawns, skates, fin rays, all these different aquatic organisms. You can see that they possess gills, and this is where their gaseous exchange takes place. Now, apart from gills, you also have lungs. Lungs are present in the bodies of human beings, vertebrates, a lot of higher animals like our mammals. Also in a lot of amphibians, they have these lungs, and lungs are these sacs that are present within the body, and they are surfaces for gaseous exchange. They are usually moist, and they have a rich presence of blood vessels, and then you can have the exchange of gases. Oxygen is taken in and carbon dioxide is given out. So the lungs are also there as respiratory surfaces. Lastly, we talk about for plants. The stomata and lenticels are used for respiratory exchange. Remember that in plants, the inverse of what happens in animals or in humans is what happens in plants. So in plants, you have the giving off of oxygen and the taking in of carbon dioxide, and this occurs in the stomata and the lenticels. So even as the plants are undergoing photosynthesis and transpiration, the loss of water, and then photosynthesis producing their own food, even as that is occurring, they are also exchanging gases through these lenticels and through these stomata. Thank you for listening to this. I do hope you understood the little that we have discussed. Please remember to like our content, share our content, and subscribe to our channel. Do have a wonderful day.